Well, welcome back. So last time we talked about making our very first ggplot and what that entails and why there's the G in ggplot, and it's for grammar of graphics, and that layers matter, but or the order that you call the ggplot code matters. But we didn't really talk through why that is, and we did not unpack what these lines of code are actually doing. So back over here, this is we've got our data right here, and then we just ran this code and we put it in line by line, and we get this figure out. But I'm saying that there's a better way to do this, and the better way would be to create either a script, or if we wanted to turn this into our boss or turn this into our principal investigator, we probably need to get this into a report of some kind. So if you remember, Command Shift N on Mac or Control Shift N on Windows will create a new script. We could also say file, new R script. Now that'll get us a script, but I think at the end of the day, we probably want we probably want a Quarto document. So we're going to start a new Quarto document. And we're going to say, we're going to call this example or ggplot2 examples. And this is Gabriel Odom. And we're going to create this. Okay, so I get my ggplot examples. So I'm going to first add some commentary here and say we are interested in viewing the relationship between engine size, the variable DISPL, and fuel economy. And I'll say highway fuel economy. The variable backtick HWY. Okay, and then I'll say the data set .mpg, or sorry, mpg. Let's see if we've got this. Yes, is from the tidyverse. Now I usually will put tidyverse as whenever I'm talking about a package, I will put 2 colons after it to make sure everybody knows that I'm talking about a package. Other people will type, so also typed as tidyverse. They will put they'll make packages bold. I personally don't think that's specific enough, because there's a lot of other languages, there's a lot of other reasons for you to use bold than just the name of a package. But I think this is more the standard, is to put package names bold. I've also seen this where people will type backtick, or they'll type the curly braces, tidyverse, like this. And they'll put the name of the package in curly braces, and that sort of mirrors what you see in the help field as well. You've got this curly brace, then the name of the package, and then the closing curly brace. I personally prefer this way, to call it, we've got the package name followed by double colon, the 2 colons. But I think this way is probably okay too. I've seen people write package names this way, but I really don't like it, simply because you use bold for other things. All right, so we're gonna put in here, we're gonna label this section. So the way that we add a label, we've got the £, and then the pipe operator, and we type label, and this will be packages and data. And so we say library, tidyverse. And you could be saying, well, hold on, we loaded the tidyverse down here. Why do we also have to load it in our script? That's a great question. Remember, the whole point of this is reproducibility. And you want to give your audience, whoever you email this script to, you want to give them all of the power necessary in order to like start this from scratch, okay? That they would be able to run this code from scratch without running into any problems, all right? So we have that we want to make sure that whoever gets this script will be able to run it from top to bottom and reproduce exactly what we had done. And for that, it doesn't matter that we loaded the tidyverse down here because the person that we're sending this Quarto document to doesn't have access to what's in my console. They only have access to what's in the source pane up here. So this is probably the last time that I'm going to do any real work down here in the console for most of the rest of the semester. If I do put some code down here, it'll be kind of like throwaway code that's not super important. But from here on out, everything that I do is going to be up here in the source pane, and you need to get in the habit of doing that. All right, so we load the tidyverse. And also, this isn't necessary, but sometimes I like to include the install packages command here. Install packages, quote, tidyverse. Just in case they don't have it, then they would automatically have the code necessary to run it. And then I could add a comment here that says, if you do not have this package suite installed, please uncomment the install.packages call and execute that code. So that's it's not that it's necessary. If somebody sees library tidyverse and it doesn't work, then I'm hoping they know that they need to install the tidyverse, but be charitable to people. And I guess think about yourself in 6 months when you're trying to redo this code and it's late at night and the grant resubmission is due tomorrow or something, and you're just kind of like pulling your hair out. Be charitable to future you as well. And then we'll say, let's take a look at the MPG data set. So if I'm going to run this, I can preview this window right here. So I'll run this, and hey, it works. I get all of my code. Now there's one other thing here. When I loaded the tidyverse before, it gave me all of these messages that I probably don't want. So I'm going to add another option, and that's going to be message equals false. I don't want everybody seeing all this multicolor output. I just want it to be kind of nice and clean and tidy. So I'm going to turn off the messages here when I'm loading the tidyverse. Okay, so and then the other section of this here is now we can visualize the relationship between engine size and fuel economy. And here's where I would add a hypothesis. This is our initial hypothesis is that larger engines are in less fuel efficient cars. Okay, before we build a figure, and this goes back to more like the scientific idea. There's something called harking, and let's see, HARK in science. Hypothesizing after the results are known. Okay, so what you want to do is before you ever build a figure, you want to have an idea in your head, like, honestly, I think that if I increase the engine size, that the fuel economy will go down, something along those lines. You want to have an idea in your head of what you expect to see in that figure before you ever make a figure, all right? So we add our hypothesis here before we put in our code. Okay, so I'm going to go back down here and I'm going to find my code. Now I've already typed it. So normally we don't copy and paste code, but I've already typed it, so I'll do that here. Notice, however, this plus sign is going to give me trouble. So I'm going to delete this. Okay. And this is another reason why I tell you guys, or I tell you folks, do not copy and paste code because these plus signs will come with it and it'll mess up your code. Okay, so let's run this. And what's cool is it actually puts the figure in the document down here. And so we can see, let's make this a little bit bigger. We can see the same figure that we made before, okay? And I want to get into what this code is actually doing. So back into our notes, there's a couple of components here. Number one, there's the plus sign, which is the layer glue. Okay. Now I said that there are layers to this and we want to add layer on top of layer on top of layer on top of layer. So think about you've got a blank canvas in front of you and you're constantly adding more paint to it in certain spots and in certain colors, certain shapes and whatever, and that's how you make a painting. This symbol is not the 1 + 1 = 2 symbol. R will allow you to also use this plus sign to add layers of a figure together, okay? Now, the first layer is the data layer, okay? So the first line of code right here, data is, ggplot is data equals mpg. So remember, this is the argument to the function. This is the value to the function. So the function's named ggplot. The first argument is called data, and we supply the value known as mpg, which is an entire data set, to the argument called data, okay? Now here's an exercise for you. I want you to run just this code by itself and tell me what you see. So take a couple of seconds. So you talk amongst yourselves. Tell me, or are you thinking about it? What do you think that you saw whenever you just ran this bit of code by itself? All right. Now, here's another exercise. Go ahead and do this exercise as well. And now that you've done this exercise, please understand this statement is very, very important. If you ever have trouble with your ggplot, make sure your data frame is in quote unquote tidy form, that it is a data frame or a tibble, one of the two. And technically speaking, all tibbles are data frames. And also that it's got information where the samples are the rows and the measurements are the columns, which we can go back and look at this. We can look at our data and we can confirm this. And we see here that the samples, each one of these rows is a car, and the measurements on that car are the columns. Okay. Now the next component of this, so we have our first bit of code, and that is the data layer. And then we're adding on something else. So we've got our data layer, what I usually call the blank canvas, and we're going to add stuff. We're going to put stuff onto that canvas. And that's this second layer right here, the aesthetics mapping layer. And so we can see here, we've got a function named aesthetics, AES. The first argument is named X, and we are assigning the value displacement to the argument X. The second argument is Y, and we are assigning the value HWY for highway fuel economy to the value of Y, okay? And here's the other thing here. Look over in my global environment. My global environment is empty. This is my next exercise for you. Where did displacement and highway come from? Okay. So I want you to think about these lines. I want you to think about this and then work on all of these exercises. So I'm going to pause here. Okay, now you've had a few minutes and you're going to work on these exercises. You've worked on these exercises, and we're going to get into the last layer right here, and that is the geom point layer. Okay. So this is where, given what you have in your mappings, we're actually putting paint on the canvas, and we're saying, I'm going to paint a red dot right here in this location. So We say with the idea of the aesthetics decide, well, how far from the right of the canvas, how far up from the bottom of the canvas is the point going to go? And then am I going to paint a square? Am I going to paint a diamond? Am I going to paint a triangle? And what color am I going to paint it? Is it going to be blue? Is it going to be red? Is it going to be pink? Is it just going to be a hollow shape where I just paint the outline of the shape and there's no color on the inside of it? All sorts of things. That's governed by like where it is and what it's representing is governed by the aesthetics, but the action of putting it on the canvas is governed by this geometric object, the geom whatever, in our case, geom point call. All right, and this is a good place to pause. Um, so quick summary here. We talked about these three layers of this ggplot. So we've got our data layer, we've got our aesthetics mapping layer. This is where we say which component of the data goes where on the figure. And then we have our geometric objects to say, well, what kind of geometric objects are we painting on the canvas at these locations? And then we're holding it all together with the plus sign. All right, we will see you next time.